You're watching Eye on Africa, our look at the day's top stories from across the continent. I'm James Creedon. Here are the headlines. France 24 visits Tataouine in the south of Tunisia after a 20-year-old man was killed in clashes with security forces on Monday. Several more were injured in protests over high unemployment in this region with a booming oil industry. Our reporters talked to some of those protesters. In Cameroon, a government report points the finger of blame at transport company Camrail for a deadly train crash that left 79 people dead last October. Camrail is owned by the French industrial group Bolloré. And South African Muslims are gearing up for the holy month of Ramadan, which is set to begin. We take a look at how they are preparing. Hello and welcome. We start in Tunisia, where a tense peace has returned to Tataouine in the south of the country. On Monday, a young man died and several more were injured during clashes with police in the oil-rich region, where unemployment is nonetheless soaring. Demonstrators are demanding that oil companies hire 70% of their workers from the local population. Our correspondents Sandro Lucienz and Hamdi Talili sent us this report from Tataouine.
Not much is left of Tataouine's torched police stations. Some attempt to tidy what seems beyond saving. On the ground, the remaining signs of the clashes. In the desert area of Cameroon, 100 kilometers south, more ashes. In the protest camp, a dozen tents went down in flames.
They burned down our tents without even checking if someone was inside. They attacked us with tear gas.
At its first location, the sit-in was blocking the only access road to the oil fields. After 3 weeks, they all moved here to this even more strategic location because of this, the crossing of the pipelines. After a 48-hour warning, they cut the fence and shut down the main valve.
Despite the clashes that followed, the several hundred campers are set on holding their ground peacefully. After over a month of life in the desert, the community seems organized enough to last. Everyone has his specialty. Shoes are left outside. And some even started to mark their property.
We are waiting for them to answer our demands, but they respond with violence, and one of us has died. But we can't stop. We'll continue our peaceful protest and always stay peaceful.
The protesters say it is inappropriate to ask the security forces to intervene. They're hoping for a better redistribution of wealth and to have priority as employees in the oil companies. For a while, at least, they were the masters of these pipelines and the flow of riches that they transit.
An Ethiopian court sentenced an opposition politician to 6.5 years in prison on Thursday. Jonathan Tesfaye published a series of anti-government comments on Facebook in 2015 during protests against the authorities. Tesfaye's remarks encouraged terrorist acts, the court said. Thursday's sentencing comes a day after Ethiopia convicted a journalist of inciting violence against the state. Meanwhile, in Uganda, sentencing has been delayed in a case of cyber harassment and offensive communication. The academic Stella Nyanzi has challenged prosecution claims that she has mental health issues over remarks made about the president on Facebook. In one comment, Nyanzi called President Yoweri Museveni a pair of buttocks. She had previously offered to have sex with him if he stood down, and she has referred to his ministers as an infestation of pubic lice. A government report in Cameroon has concluded that the train company Camrail is mainly to blame for a deadly train crash last October. 79 people died and at least 600 more were injured in the crash. The report concluded that the train was going at more than twice the speed limit, was carrying too many passengers and had defective brakes. President Paul Biya had commissioned that report, and his office has said it will review agreements with the rail company. Camrail is owned by the French industrial group Bolloré. A spokesman for CEO Vincent Bolloré has refused to comment. Our reporters in Cameroon spoke to victims of the crash.
13-month-old Ramatu still bears the scars of the train accident that took place last October. She was with her elder sister Safia and their mother Aissatou that day, seated aboard Camrail train 152 headed for Douala. The girl's mother never reached her destination. 6 months later, her partner Mamadou is raising their daughters alone and still hasn't recovered from shock. In his modest home in this popular district of Douala, he condemns the silence and indifference shown by Camrail, a subsidiary of the Bolloré group.
My wife died on the train and they don't even care about me. I learned that money was given to all the others, but I didn't receive anything from them, not even 5 francs. I'm with my children and no one has bothered calling me.
A few kilometres away at the Court of First Instance in Douala, 2 other families with loved ones that disappeared in the wreck have launched a legal battle against the railway company. 2 families that still don't know the whereabouts of their loved ones or their bodies. For the family's legal representatives, the Bolloré Group, a majority shareholder of Camrail, has to be held accountable.
We believe that during this time, when families are in distress, we can't accept that Bolloré just came to Cameroon to get rich. If he has an ounce of humanity, he should help support their pain, notably by helping us to either find the bodies or deal with the legal paperwork.
Having failed to retrieve the bodies, Camrail's been ordered to provide death certificates, a request that cannot be met, says the railway operator's defence.
Camrail are a private company. We are unable to issue death certificates or provide information about the cause of death. We cannot carry out DNA testing. The bodies are not in our possession.
Following the tragedy, 3 investigations were launched to determine the exact cause of the accident, but more than 6 months later, only one of them has been made public.
Now, since the murder of 2 journalists at our affiliate radio station RFI in 2013, several cultural associations have been created in Francophone Africa to pay homage to them. Ghislaine Dupont and Claude Verlon were killed while reporting in Mali. One of the associations set up to honour them is in a remote area in the east of Togo. Here, young locals are being encouraged to discover literature and a love for reading.
In Tabligbo, 2 hours outside the capital, the cultural hub of the small village had fallen to ruin. That is, until 2 enthusiasts decided to raise the funds to build a new centre. For them, it was out of the question. Young people in this rural community should go without books.
We've noticed a decline in students' grades in the area. That's due to the fact that the students don't read books.
The library was named after Claude Verlon, the RFI journalist killed in 2013 in northern Mali. And 3 months ago, the isolated community created an RFI club.
Last month, we tackled the issue of young people's sexual health. We proposed subjects that affect everyone to allow these young people to adapt to the real world.
Enoch is the RFI club's youngest member. His passion for books and debates helped him win a literary competition.
I go to the library twice a week.
To help students like Enoch develop their knowledge, the library's given all the schools in Tabligbo access to its resources. More than 700 students are members.
Since the library opened, we've been going from classroom to encourage all the students to join. The director has also halved membership fees for those coming from modest households.
Swept up by the enthusiasm of these book lovers, the association's activities now draws the whole community once a week.
Ramadan is about to begin. The date for the beginning of the holy month varies depending on the country, but in South Africa, fasting starts as of Friday. Nicolas Germain takes a look at how South African Muslims are preparing.
Muslims here in South Africa and across the world are preparing for Ramadan, Islam's holy month. Muslims account for about 2% of South Africa's 53 million inhabitants. During Ramadan, believers are expected to seek spiritual growth.
We study the Quran a lot. You find that we read the Quran every day in the month of Ramadan, and we have groups of people who get together and they study different topics from the Quran as well.
In Cape Town, a trade fair was specially organised before Ramadan. It was held at the Castle of Good Hope, a fort built in the 17th century where slaves were held after they arrived from other parts of Africa and Asia.
Out of the slavery, out of this exile, grew this Muslim community of Cape Town to integrate into the broader communities of Cape Town. And fought colonialism, fought apartheid, and today this community is one of the freest communities in the Muslim world that you can find.
This food stall owner will be selling snacks to Muslims as they break their fast with the iftar evening meal.
As a Muslim, I'm preparing already, my whole family is preparing for the month of Ramadan, which is a very pious month for us. It's a month of lots of barakah. We need to prepare ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally. And it is not just one person, it's the whole family.
During Ramadan, Muslims are supposed to avoid gossip, arguments and fighting, and they are encouraged to engage in more charity work.
That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa. Do stay tuned.